What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Knuckle Sandwich Podcast, not Knuckle Up, as Ryan would say. This is your host, Brandon Anderson. And tonight we're going to be sitting down with Ryan himself, and Lawton's in the background making all this magic happen. We're recapping the incredible weekend of fights that we just had over at Black Tie and Boxing. 8 MMA fights, 1 kickboxing, some Fight Club stuff that I don't think we're really going to dive into tonight. But yeah, we want to talk about also, Black Time Boxing and what they do, who they are. I know a lot of you guys on the stream weren't the biggest fans of the first 2 hours, but loved the last two. I appreciate you just sticking around for all of that, for the MMA fights rolling around. We've got 5 people watching right now. I want to make sure, hit the subscribe button. I'm on the road to 500 subscribers, and Ryan said that if you don't share the stream right now, that we're not even going to start yet. So I'd prefer you to do that because I have a bedtime and I don't want to be up later than I have to be. So make sure to hit subscribe. Make sure to share this to your Facebook, your Instagram, your Snapchat, your Twitter, your X, your whatever. And yeah, help us get to that 500 subs. Without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in Ryan Collins as well, and let's start diving into these fights. What's up, home dog? What's good? What's
up? I like that little shot you took at the beginning, though.
Yeah,
the knuckle up. I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna fix it. Shout out to Knuckle Up Gym in Atlanta.
Okay. All right, too much.
Man, I'm excited. I'm ready to talk about these fights.
Dude, I mean, Black Tie, as much of a whirlwind as it was, ended up being a wonderful fight card.
Yes. The snow, the weather, I know that created nightmares for us. I was worried.
Yeah, I mean, normally, this is what I think my third card matching with you and for you now. Normally it's like fight week. There's 1 or 2 that we got to fix. There was freaking 7 fights that I had to remake on fight week, which is so stupid and unheard of. Obviously weather, sickness. A lot of guys are sick, and some guys just pulled out just cause, I guess. So, it was an eventful fight week, and normally after the weigh-ins we can kind of chill out a little bit, but because of all the virtual weigh-ins, we still had to wait till people showed up to fight day. So
yes.
I'm sure your nerves were just as wrecked as mine were all the way till the fights actually started.
Oh, they were. Like you said, usually weigh-in night is my favorite night, because as soon as weigh-ins are over and everybody makes weight, the rest is kind of fun. I mean, sometimes fight night can be kind of hectic, but the hard part's over. Everybody's there. The show is pretty much, the venue's usually already set up, so everything's ready to go. But this was the first time I think I've ever had a show where we did that many virtual weigh-ins. Usually it's 1 maybe that can't make it to weigh-in. So a lot. We made a lot of changes. We did a lot of things, a lot of phone calls I know you had to make. We matched 4 fights in a week, probably three or four fights changed fight week at least.
No, 7. I think it was 7? Literally was 7. Yeah,
that's crazy. That's the whole fight card almost.
Pretty much, yeah. It was 7 out of 10. 1 ended up having to drop, and then 3 new opponents for 1 guy in a 24-hour notice. So that was also pretty nuts.
Yes. That might. I'd say that's probably happened before, but on that size of a show, everybody's always itching to fight on Black Tie because it's such a big production and big event. And man, we threw that one together, and it paid off because all the fights were exciting. Every one.
They were electric. Austin Little's in the chat. He said he snuck over to the corner at practice just to watch the stream. So of course we love you, long haul. Appreciate you, bro. But yeah, I wanted to talk about Black Tie, I guess, in general. Of Star Center, they raised $280,000 for the Star Center, which is a place in Jackson, charity that helps out with disabled people, I believe, right? To help them get, the correct equipment, get acquainted back in life. And so, I mean, what an incredible night for that, just in general, for them to get that much raised. It's insane.
Huge, man. I think that's their biggest event that they do, of course. So it's a big portion of the money coming in for that charity. And they help, so I can't remember the number that Lane read out on the stream, but they help a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And, if you know anybody that's been through that or that needs something like that, you see you're more connected to it and you understand it more, how important it is.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad we're able to be a part of that. And the idea to mix MMA and the charity portion and the Black Tie was put together long ago, 6 years ago, I think, something like that. So I always look forward to January. It's one of my favorite events. It's so different than any other event. So just such a good reason.
After the fight, I mean, I had other promoters, other fans, everything texting me and be like, dude, like, I don't know how y'all pull that thing off. Like, it's insane. All the production. I'm like, so shout out to Frank Byers, obviously, for all the production that he does, because holy crap. I mean, like you said, it's something that, I've never seen. And my parents were in the fight business a long time ago when I was a kid, and my mom had made a post and she was like, we never had chandeliers at our show. So,
I've seen that.
I mean, it's truly incredible. I actually have Lane's notes here. 3,844 people have been supported in the past year. 518 people supported in employment. 95 counties in Tennessee were served just by the Star Center alone. So pretty awesome work that they're doing. And what a great time to raise some money. But I mean, let's talk about the bread and butter, these fights. And I kind of want to just go through the fight order and as it went. I mean, I think there's some shining stars that obviously we'll get to. We had the 2 title fights. We had a knockout of the night. We had the fight of the night. But arguably the very first fight could have been fight of the night if it wasn't a partial crowd for a hometown boy, in my opinion. But Alex Stiltner and Julian Cruz, bro, these two guys went at it. First fight of the night.
Before we start, though, I know we're not going to talk about the Fight Club, but I do wanted to say the Fight Club portion of the fight, like you said at the beginning of the stream, a lot of people from the MMA world probably didn't really understand or enjoy that part. But it is important. It is an important part of that show. They raise a lot of money. It's all that is local people in the area that maybe train, I think, for 3 or 4 months, and they get in there and they fight. Whoever raises the most money gets the fight. So out of all the people, we make usually 3 or 4 fights. Barry Summers, the head guy, the manager of the Fight Club thing. So there's a reason that we throw those in there. They raise a lot of money, and it is an important part of the show. We don't know those guys personally, or since they don't do this full time, we're not really going to go over everything. But I did want to give a quick shout out and thank you to everybody that was part of that, because they were. I think they raised $21,000 this year, so that's a big achievement in itself.
100%. Yeah, I think there was a financial advisor, pest control, couple cops, retired military, Marines, all this stuff. So I mean, they're all over the place with people just bringing them in. But we saw the first couple were a little bit of brawls, and then the last two were a little more technical. Man, it was good. It was good. I think it was better than last year's fights whenever it come to actual fighting, in my opinion. I think they went down. They threw down a little bit more this year than last year, it seemed like.
Well, my pitch next year, if I have if they will listen to me, let's do the Fight Club, but let's do MMA.
Or let's just do me and you, and then we just.
That would be so short, though.
Yeah, you would give up pretty quick. All right. Anyways, Alex Stiltner versus Julian Cruz. Man, this was one of the ones that we had to make on a 4-day notice. I think Julian accepted this fight on Wednesday or Tuesday. He was walking around to 156, had to cut down to 147, and the dude came out hot and heavy, just like I thought he would, because in his first fight he did the exact same thing. But Stiltner was an absolute dog and took a beating for the first minute and a half, 2 minutes, and then the next 2 rounds he dominated the rest of the fight.
He did, and Julian looked so good, man. I remember looking at you, and after that first round, or maybe halfway through that first round, and I was like. I was so excited because the first fight of the night is always important to me. Yeah. And Julian looked so good, and even in the second round, I could tell he was tired at the end of that first round. Well, in the second round, he had some good positions, and he jumped for some crazy submissions, in my opinion. Yeah. They looked cool. It was good for the fans because he was going for it. He did not a flying armbar, but he jumped an armbar, which was wild because he had top position. But yeah, he spent most of the round. Stiltner or Alex, how you say his last name? Stiltner. So Stiltner, like you said, he took control. He got the mount position and stayed there for the majority of the fight once he got it. So yeah, but I think a lot of that was due to Julian just being tired.
Yeah. And then in my opinion, literally right after that, I think I had texted you. I was like, dude, fight of the night. Already, first fight of the night. There we go, where it's done. And of course, we had some other really good ones later in the night. But those two guys, like you said, the first fight is super important, and I 100% agree with that. And they definitely set the tone for the rest of the night. So it's like, if you're not going to live up to that, you may get booed from the crowd or something. I don't know, because those guys, they came out flying and was throwing hot and heavy, and it was insane. Because if I remember correctly, Cruz had rocked Stiltner in the very first round, and I thought he was going to put him out.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the Stiltner kid just has like a heart of freaking,
yeah.
I don't know what, but dude, it was great. It was a wonderful first fight, and Alex Stiltner came out on top with a unanimous decision victory. And then moving into the fight two, we got some big boys, some heavyweights, and normally it's really hard to get these guys. Seems like there's not many in the region anymore. But these two guys, Kejan, this is another one that was matched on, a few days' notice or about a week, because Kejan went through 3 different opponents. He was scheduled at 205. His opponent got injured. Then he went up to heavyweight, and he was supposed to fight a bigger guy from Paducah. He ended up getting sick and has COVID, I found out just like yesterday. And then so he ended up fighting Jameer Brown out of Screaming Eagle Combatives here in Clarksville, where I'm from. And I was really surprised by Jameer, to be completely honest, because I knew that Kejan had this boxing background. He's a police officer as well up in Nashville. And so, like, I was like, okay, like, I mean, he was a stout dude too. Let's not get that wrong either. But I was expecting a little bit more exchanges, and I was like, oh crap. But Jameer, dude, he set the pace, landed a lot of really good jabs. And once he got to the ground, it seemed like Kejan was a little bit lost there, where he was like, I don't know how to get out of this position. And he starts landing those double hammer fists, and I was like, "Oh, here we go!" Like, it was great.
That was an exciting fight too. I was excited just to see the big guys in there, and like you said, when he walked out, or both of them really, to be honest. But when he walked out, he looked like a heavyweight Tyron Woodley. Like, dude was jacked, man. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be good." But the way they got to the ground, I thought it was like a right hand maybe or something that got him to the ground, but I think he kind of stumbled. I don't think it landed clean. But like you said, once he got there, he had a tough time. He really just didn't know what to do to sweep or whatever, or maybe he did and just couldn't execute it. But from Nashville MMA, I don't know if they got a lot of heavyweights up there. That could be a problem. If they don't, he's not used to training with a guy the same size as him. I know that's a problem at a lot of gyms. Heavyweights sometimes have to go to other areas so they can get somebody their own size. Not saying that that's a problem. Nashville's huge, and that's one of the best gyms. If you're fighting somebody from Nashville, Wild Tide, any of them gyms, you better be ready, because those guys are training with some of the best in the state.
100%. Yeah, I know that Nashville, they have a guy, Gage Holcomb's up there. He's a heavyweight. Dakota Ballard should be fighting in June. He had talked to me in passing at the Aries show a few months ago. And so, like, I know they do have some big guys. And, of course, they have, a bunch of pros up there, too. So I feel like even if they're not heavyweights, he's just training with a lot of high-level guys. But I do remember, his coach had told me he's a little bit green on the ground. He just said focus on boxing and kickboxing for so long, and then was like, all right, I want to do MMA. Well, you got to figure out the other part of MMA, but I'm sure he's definitely going to be a 205er. I do know that. He graciously took the heavyweight fight just to stay on the card, because one thing I do know about Nashville MMA is their coaches are very diligent on, like, if you say you're going to fight, you're going to fight. And regardless of where we find you a fight, we're going to find you one, and you're going to stay on the card. So big props to Kejan for going up to heavyweight and staying there and fighting a bigger guy in Jameer. But dude, Jameer looked really quick on the feet too, which is what I was really surprised by. His really snappy jab, really light on the feet, and overall I think that paid the big dividends for him in that fight.
Yeah, I agree. I look forward to seeing both of them guys back in there. I think he's probably going to go do some jiu-jitsu or do some wrestling work. I'm sure boxing is his strength. So maybe he didn't just put 100% into it, but that's anytime that happens, it's not a bad thing. It can be a wake-up call for some people, and just say, hey, yeah, I got to get on the ground. I got to work my weaknesses instead of keep getting better at my strengths. So
100%. Our next fight, I'm responding to Austin Little in the chat. I realized I didn't do that after I called it out. Next fight was made on 2 days' notice, Wednesday night, like late Wednesday night, kickboxing match between a Jackson boy, Aero Athletics, Peyton Hudson. I knew nothing about this guy at all. I just texted AJ. I was like, "Hey man, I'm putting together a kickboxing fight. You got anybody?" He sent me a name, and I knew this guy from Dogwood. I knew that they really weren't looking to book, but Austin Little had hit me up, and so I said, "Hey man, if you got somebody around this weight," and they had Cameron Sides. I had watched him at the Black Cat Cage Fights too, and I thought he looked really good. He was in the fight of the night there, and he's just a really like confident individual. And both these guys looked pretty stout for 195 as well, might I add. So
Yeah.
a kickboxing match, you again with these guys that are like 0-1, 0-0, you don't really know what you're going to get, but it seemed like it was just nonstop action pretty much for 3 straight rounds. Both guys just continued to move forward over and over and over. And overall, Peyton Hudson got that unanimous decision victory in that one.
Yeah, that was a really close fight. And to be honest, I didn't know Peyton either. And after so I didn't recognize the name. I'd been out of the gym for a while now, and I went back a few. Can you tell? A few weeks ago, and actually, he was one of the guys I sparred with, and he was really good. I noticed very quickly that he moves forward. So that's my thing. When I'm in the gym, whether I'm in shape or not, I'm moving forward. Like I may be tired, but I'm moving forward. So me and him, I realized that really fast when I was sparring him in the gym. Whether you hit him or not, and you're landing the punches, he's coming forward. So
yeah,
that's a huge. And he did that in the fight as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very close fight. I think that could be what won him the fight. He landed some of the cleaner shots. Cameron, though,
but a lot of his stuff didn't land with a lot of power, though. Cameron was the one that was like landing with some heat on his stuff, but it was just that like forward volume striking almost from Peyton Hudson, and then you had the other guy, Cameron Side, just trying to knock his teeth out. It seemed like, and maybe that attested to a little bit of what seemed to be a little bit of tiredness on sides. But yeah, man. I mean, I think like you said, the volume striking ended up winning the judge's decision on that one.
Yeah, it was almost like a Nate Diaz 170. Like it wasn't power. He was just trying to do the pop shots. Pop, pop. Yeah, yeah.
But anytime I think about that, I think of Colby Covington versus Robbie Lawler, because it was like so many strikes that he landed, but nothing was like really doing a ton of damage. Yeah, but it was just like forward, pressure, volume. So
in kickboxing, and I stress this, I tell like new guys this all the time. These judges, it's hard to see everything that's going on when everything's happening so fast, and you're kicking, punching, both the other guys kicking, punching when you're both coming forward. So volume wins. If you look like you're winning the volume, it makes you look like you're winning the fight, whether it's 50-50 or not. So, really good fight, back and forth fight. Was that unanimous or? It
was unanimous. Yeah, ended up being unanimous for Peyton. Yeah. Let's go on to fight number 4 in Lawton. This is the Brody Belitsky Sinjin Noga fight. We want to show this video because this one was quick and it turned really fast, in my opinion, for Brody's side, because it looks like, let's see what we can get here.
And see, I didn't know Sinjin, but somebody told me, man, they were like, this guy is really good. So,
yeah, I was probably the one that told you that. Yeah, more than likely.
Probably. And so, and I didn't know Brody either. So this fight was
I mean, you had a 1-0 and a 0-0 guy, but right here, Sinjin lands this big right that knocks Brody back. And I was like, oh no, here we go. Like, but then Brody answers and drops him in one shot. And I was like, holy crap, what is this? And I think in the stream the whole time I was just like, ooh, because I was so just fascinated with what the heck was going on.
This kick right here that's about to land, it doesn't look like it hurts him, but it does.
No, but it folds him. Yes. I was like, holy moly, dude. And the fun fact of the night was that Brody actually told me that his favorite striking technique was a head kick. So I was like, maybe we'll see it. And I think I said that in his walkout. And then sure enough, he freaking lands it and drops Sinjin again for the second time in the fight. Dude, I mean, this one was one of those ones that I was like, if you don't know, now you know type deal. Because I knew there was both 2 young athletic guys, and both coming from really good gyms in Nashville MMA and Wildside, of course. So, but Brody, I was also told, is on a bowling scholarship to Austin Peay, which was really fascinating as well, to know that a bowler is also
it's interesting
is also an MMA fighter now. But dude, so this one earns my knuckle sandwich knockout of the night. I mean, undeniably so, I would say. I mean, the striking from Brody Belitsky, both these guys looked pretty massive for 172. They're really tall guys. both stockier guys. So I knew we were going to get a firefight, and I think that's exactly really what we got there.
Yeah. At the end, and I know every fighter is going to argue his own, stoppage. But at the end there, I think, and what stopped the fight, why Tyler stopped the fight, is you can see him, he's on that single leg, and Brody's hitting. Well, he dropped for a quick second. It comes right back, but that almost resembles like another flash. And he had already had 2 of those moments within 20 seconds, or 3 of those moments total. So he was just probably still trying to recover from that first big shot. Because, like I said, that one kick, it kind of landed on the back of the head, the reason you can't legally hit the back of the head on purpose is because it's so easy to knock somebody out from that kind of shot. So that could have dazed him, and he also landed a punch right after that kick. But that's one of those fights where you're always excited to see a TKO or a KO, but at the same time, I'd like to see another round. I'd like to see a full round of those guys going at it.
100%. Yeah, dude. I mean, I think both of those guys have super bright futures. Like I said, they're both really young, and so this one, I just said that earned my knockout of the night. I was gonna say something, and you kept talking, and it went out of my brain, and now I just don't remember what I was
My
gonna say.
bad. Looks like Sinjin just commented in the chat.
Okay.
Too.
Remember me, Brandon promised that 100%, dude. And I mean, even Hunter McNeely also said both those guys are dangerous, dude. 100%. Like, I think I was talking to somebody about Sinjin actually on the way up to Jackson on Thursday night, and I was like, dude, you got to watch out for this guy, because I had watched his first fight, and then it was just that constant forward pressure that we were talking about with Peyton Hudson. And I was like, man, like, I think he's going to do the same thing, and he did to begin with, and then you get set back on your feet a little bit, but I have some exciting things in my mind for both of these guys in the future. So, I mean, they're definitely both still on my radar for Hub City, of course, and for the future, just in general. I think they're just both going to be really, really good.
I think a year from now or 2 years from now, you'll look back and that'll be like that'll be a huge fight. Like both those guys are possible contenders. Like probably 3 fights from now, right? Like I can, even though we didn't get to see too much from Sinjin, I can see the skill level, and I could tell where his hands were at and how light he was on his feet, that he's experienced and was ready to strike. He got caught early, probably threw him off a lot. We didn't get to see what we, could have seen from him, but shout out to Brody, man. He smelt blood, and he tried to finish that fight, and he got the finish.
Dude. Oh, I know what I was going to say now. So, like, you think that Tyler really stepped in for that because of that? Like, I mean, if I'm reffing and I see, 3 knockdowns already, and he's kind of out of it on his feet a little bit, he's trying to grapple. You see that last one. I mean, I understand the stoppage. It reminds me of like the Nunes Cyborg fight where like they let it go as long as you can, and once you get dropped a few too many times, they're like, all right, you're taking enough. So I feel like the stoppage was warranted there. I don't think it was early by any means.
No.
But I definitely, like you had said, I mean, I would have loved to see, another 2 minutes of that fight at least, or another, whole round of fresh fighters or whatever. So I'm not huge on rematches, but you never know. I mean, down the road, if both these guys are dominant, they may line up, you never know.
I could see it happening. I mean, like you said, though, that fight, every ref's different. Some refs would have stopped it on the first flash knockout with an amateur fighter.
Right.
Because he buckled to his knees, but he never hit the ground. Like, really, nothing else hit the ground. He just kind of buckled, came right back. And I love that Tyler gave him the opportunity after that. After the head kick, he gave him a little bit of opportunity. And then he was still fighting when he stopped the fight. He was on a single leg. Wasn't really just taking like a whole lot of damage, but I think it was the combination of all that happening in such a short time is why he stopped the match. So you can't argue it. I wouldn't say that was like you said, not a early stoppage or anything like that. It was fair. So good fight, man. Impressive fight. Both guys got a big future, I'm sure.
100%. And talking about 2 guys that have a big future, moving on to our fight of the night. Ty Arnold versus Josh Ward, Aero Athletics versus Wild Side. What a freaking fight this was, dude. Holy crap. Yeah. These 2 guys met at 180. So Ty is on his way down to 170 right now. 170 is one of the hardest divisions to match for. It just seems like there's not a lot of guys. You got to branch out quite a bit, it seems like. But Ty and his coach both said, yeah, we'll meet him at 180. And this was Josh's first fight. He was 2-0 in kickboxing before, and I've seen him kickbox. He has wonderful kicks. He uses the body really well. And so I was expecting that. I was not expecting the wrestling. And then it turns out he's a freaking, regional
Wrestler.
champion wrestler and state qualifier. I was like, holy moly, like, where did this even come from? So, I mean, what was your perception of the fight? You had a cage side seat, man. What did you think of it?
That was a really good fight. I went back and watched that one today. I talked to AJ's wife last night at the gym about it because, of course, I wasn't working out. I was sitting on the sidelines watching them work out, but nonetheless, I was at the gym. But I just talked to her about it, and I was like, I got to go back and watch that one. But when I went back and watched it, so it would be so hard to score.
Yeah.
The only round that I can just be like 100% somebody won. Ty won the last round. The other two, so close. I think the reason the judges gave it to Josh, yes, Josh. The reason they gave it to Ward is because the wrestling. So even though when he got him to the ground, he didn't do a whole lot of damage, but he had a whole lot of control. So a lot of times he had the back, or he would be in mount, and there was a good sweep in the first round. I think it could have been in the second round. I can't remember, but Ty had a good sweep, back and forth fight. But like I said, first round close. You could give it to either guy. Second round, there's an argument that you could give it to Ty. But I think he came back at the end of that round. He started off every round really good, but when he started having to wrestle is where he spent a lot of time defending Josh's takedowns and stuff like that. Josh went for some crazy. He went for a Darce choke 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Man, that was a really exciting fight. Ty gave up a lot of size. I could tell how big Josh was as soon as he walked out, and but Ty had the reach on him too. He was just having a hard time with the distance because he would land a few shots, and he's a forward pressure guy as well. So when you got in close, Josh was shooting for the takedown. So it was an interesting fight, good matchup. Can't argue either way.
Definitely, yeah. In my mind, I had it round 1 Josh, round 3 Ty. I thought round 2 was the deciding one there for myself, from my perspective. And what really amazed me a little bit, and really what was like, wow, like this is wonderful, right, was Josh was shooting takedowns off his freaking knees, man. Like you could tell that he had like wrestling experience, not just like wrestling at MMA practice experience, but like wrestling experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Following? Like he's used to being on all fours. A guy is like on his back, and they're like, all right, 3, 2, 1, go, and then he's having to get out of that position. Yeah, exactly. So it's like he was able to get takedowns from positions that normally you wouldn't really see in MMA because of that background. And I think that was really, a hard thing for Ty to defend a little bit. He did really well in the second round, in my opinion, and in the third. But like you said, I think in the second round, maybe it was just a little too late for him to start kind of turning the tide. Because I think in my mind, round 1, Josh won that round, and maybe had a little bit more momentum going into round 2 than Ty did. And Ty was having to try to like figure it out still and try to figure out those takedowns and the timing. And he ended up doing it, but it was just a little too late, in my opinion. But yeah, that second round was super close to where I was like, dude, I really didn't know. And of course, I'm sitting next to Lane Rowe, and Lane's like, bro, it's Ty all the way. And you just don't know. But that's another one of those fights that I'm just like, dude, like I would love to see another 2 rounds of those 2 guys, because if that's a 5-round fight, does it end the same way? Because Ty was, getting the momentum going after round 3, but this is why I love amateur MMA at the same time, because you don't know what you're going to get out of these freaking debut guys, and they come out and they have this great wrestling and these wonderful striking from both guys, and it's like, holy crap, like that was a 1-0 and a 0-0 guy fighting right there.
That's crazy,
that was insane. Man. It was wonderful.
That's crazy. And like you said, the number one thing I noticed was Josh. He was shooting, or a true wrestler shoots for multiple takedowns. They chain them together, and he was doing that, and he was. I mean, you could obviously tell he was tired. But any other regular normal person that just doesn't wrestle all the time, after Ty stuffs 2 of those takedowns, they're going to be just dead tired and not be able to shoot no more. He did it the entire fight. That's very hard to fight a guy that wrestles like that. And Ty did an impressive job. Like you said, he started correcting that late in the second round. He would push, he would sprawl, and then he was actually landing some shots as Josh was trying to get back up, which was he almost fit. I think maybe the third round he had some good stand up in the third round. Ty did.
Yep.
Busted up. Josh was wearing the damage, which I think that's probably why some of the local guys, other than it being a local guy, they were probably upset with the decision. But like when you look at it again, like I said, I went back and watched it. You could give it to either guy, in my opinion. You can't really just be too mad or argue it. I know AJ thinks a whole lot of Ty, and I can see why. Dude's
heck yeah.
I don't know how long he's been training. I know he hasn't been training long because he's brand new to me, and so I mean,
I think they said like 6 to 8 months. Yeah, like if that.
Ain't that crazy though?
Dude,
the striking's not just easy to learn. And his striking looked really good. So.
And what was nice for me to see, and one of the questions that I had with Ty was, what is he actually going to look like in a fight? Because his first fight was 17 seconds, and it was against a guy that ended up being a last-minute replacement. So it was like we got to see a very small glimpse, but it was like, okay, how's he going to deal with somebody that has a little bit more experience in like kickboxing and stuff? Dude, Ty's a freaking dog, bro. Yeah, I think at 170, and I'm not trying to play matchmaker right now, but a fight like Brody and Ty would be wonderful at 170. Both guys are, big for the weight class. Both guys love to strike. I think that would be super fun. Obviously, it's still an arrow and a wild side guy, but man, like, no, that's kind of like my first thought is like, oh, those two guys would be a fun young guy fight, athletic. Yeah, man. So I don't know. We'll see.
I respect the GMs that take hard fights.
100%.
Because you're not doing these guys a favor by putting them against people that they're going to smoke, right? Because whenever they if they're taking it serious, that is, if they're doing it to have a cool picture on Facebook or whatever, who cares? Yeah. But if they're taking it serious, I mean, I went and told Ty in the back. I was like, man, this is not a bad thing. Like, yeah, you lost. I understand you're probably down. He wasn't. He was completely cool. Or didn't show he was down if he was.
Sure.
But going through a fight like that, a dog fight like that, for your second fight, that's just it's such a good thing for you. And for Josh, that's his first MMA fight. Same for him. Like,
for real,
it's going to pay dividends later on in their amateur career.
Yeah, definitely. And with the ease that I was curious to see where Josh would get to at the weight cut, because I know that when I originally talked to Mike over at Wildside, he said 185. He got down to 181 for that 180 catch weight. Dude, I wonder if he could get to 70. If he could, I think he would be a real threat at 70 as well, too. So just all these questions up in the air right now. But you had just mentioned, I'm going to move on. Guys that, take, hard fights and stuff like that. We got to talk about Michael Lispy Boy Fairhurst and this hard fight that he took. And he's already got another fight in 3 weeks. But him and Tony Legarea, man, those guys put on a great performance. Honestly, like I'm getting super impressed by Michael Fairhurst every time I see him in the cage more and more and more. Like I at first, you don't have, the flashy record. You're 0-3 at the time, whatever ball. While you come in, you face Trevor Gryson. Always just flashes back because it's his only win right now. But then you catch this guy in an armbar, and all of a sudden he's got this confidence where he's taking last-minute fights and going to decisions with guys in a weight class above him, or 2 weight classes above him at that. Then he comes in and he fights this Tony Legarea, another guy that's a bigger, 130-pound guy out of Nashville, another great gym. And he does pretty dang good, in my opinion, at shelling up a lot, but sometimes that shows that you're not really trying to win the fight at sometimes too. But Tony apparently is also going to go down to 125, so he's another guy that's on my radar for the future, moving forward with some, title contentions eventually. But I mean, this fight, I know that I wasn't sure, and I really thought that the striking differential would be in Tony's favor, but I also thought that the ground game was going to be in Fairhurst's favor, because we can't forget he's a purple belt in BJJ. So it's like I really felt like it was going to be a little bit even, because they had similar styles of like this funky fight style, like unorthodox striking kind of deal, because you saw that Tony was a little bit more wild, threw really big, like looping uppercuts and looping hooks and things like that whenever he got really aggressive and felt like the finish was there. But then, of course, Fairhurst, I think anytime you get him to the ground, it's a threat. So I was really surprised that Tony took him to the ground to try and finish him. I was like, holy moly, what is he doing? Why does he keep it standing? So I don't know. But Tony ended up getting this win by round 2 TKO. And again, I think it's just it was another really tough fight for both guys. And again, props always to Michael Fairhurst for taking the tough fights. Like that's where I wanted to segment into this is he always fights tough guys.
Yeah. Yeah, his record does not reflect his skill for sure. That fight, he started off like having some precision shots. When the fight started off, I was impressed with him. He didn't have much of an option, like you said. Tony was throwing really wild and throwing a lot of volume. So Michael was covering up, waiting for his shot a lot of the time in the first round. And he was doing a good job at it because he was countering at the beginning. And then as they got into that second round. He may have gotten clipped with a few and was just trying to wait on his time to, counter it, and maybe just waited too long. And the ref, even though some of those shots weren't getting through, he just eventually, when even if you're covered up and you're defending, a referee doesn't always see that as a defense. I know Michael had made a post about it, not complaining really, but just getting people's opinions.
Because he was saying, like, I was getting ready to set up the armbar. I had the bicep, all that stuff and whatever. But like you said, I mean, if you're taking not even necessarily taking a lot of damage, but taking a lot of volume strikes, even if you're covered up, but you're not showing a real attempt at trying to get out of it, then sometimes it gets perceived in a different way. And, maybe that was it for him.
That's a hard spot to be in because when you want to get out of it, you usually got to use both your hands or at least one of your hands to get out. And Tony was throwing so many punches, Michael didn't want to drop his guard and
get hit.
Yeah. So he was trying to buy time and wait on it, and Tony just wasn't gonna, let that happen. So he did not stop. And like you said, the idea is already running on what the matches we can make. I know Michael, dude stays active, so he'll want to fight again. And that was my first time seeing Tony, and he was impressive. So I know there's a ton of future fights that you got on your mind for him. So
always. I mean, Fairhurst already has a fight February 1st lined up at featherweight.
I seen that. What's the featherweight about?
Dude, I don't know. Then he commented, he said, man, I fought at light heavyweight, welterweight. He was like, I don't even think about it really. I just like to fight. And I'm like, all right, whatever, bro. Like, you're crazy. You're crazy.
He trips me out, man. That dude, he's a funny dude.
He is. But yeah, Tony, his coach messaged me. I always message the coaches after the event and just tell them thank you for traveling down, being part of the show. Like obviously we can't have these things without the fighters and the coaches and the gyms and they said obviously we're going to be at your next show 100% in June. So I was like, well, that's always great. But he had said like I wouldn't mind you throwing Tony in that title. I'm like, well, this was a catch weight, so is he going to 25? Is he going up to 35? He's like, yeah, 25. So I was like, well, I already have a 25 fight lined up for June, but maybe we can get him on the card at 25. And if that goes well, then maybe that's a September, October fight that we can make with the winner of the title. And if Tony wins his 25 fight. So, it's already another guy on the radar. You can't overlook who you're fighting in June, but it's already another guy on the radar to be like, oh. So
and he's liable to fight between now and then. That's a long time away. So, he could get another win, make that a number one contender fight, and then
exactly
the winner of that face the champion for the fall event. So I like it.
Can't be giving away all our secrets yet, but
no, not yet.
We're already working. Let's move on to another one of my fights that I was super, super excited about. This is one that I wanted to make literally after the September card immediately. There were some other opponents lined up, I think, for really each of them or just one of them. That one had fallen out, and then I was able to make this dream match, in my opinion. Muhammad Cisse and Khalil Bill Hodges. I think Cisse is one of these guys that all of a sudden has righted the ship, wrote the ship, right? I don't know. He's already gotten back on the right path after his fight with Peyton Tudor and after coming off of 2 straight losses. But he's a super tough, durable guy that, he never gets tired. And that's a big thing with Wildside guys is they never get tired, it seems like. And then Khalil Hodges was our breakout fighter of the year for Hub City. 2 straight wins, 2 finishes, 2 first-round finishes. And so it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I think this will be a great test for Khalil to see if he's ready to even start stepping up even more. I think this is another great test for Cisse to see, you're getting this young, hungry guy that normally is a little bit bigger than most of the other 35ers. And man, Cisse, wrestling wise, was his clinch work, his underhooks. I mean, everything. He was able to control the first round and 2/3, and then Khalil really starts to figure it out, how to break off, how to start landing some shots a little bit too late. It's almost kind of like that Josh Ward-Ty Arnold fight where it was maybe just a little bit too late in round 2 to win that round and then get it capturing round 3. So I wanted to hear your take on this one because it was a close one and ended up being I think a unanimous decision for Cisse. I wrote down split, but I believe it was unanimous. But yeah, so now Cisse moves to 4-2.
I was super excited about that match, and I had to try to go back and watch that one today too because I don't know what happened. Something happened during that fight, and I had to run around. I was running around and trying to kind of watch it over my shoulder as it was going on. I know I've seen Muhammad a lot. I've seen Khalil a few times, and I knew his wrestling. Cisse's wrestling was good. I think he fought Renato Hernandez, and that fight was just a really good back and forth wrestling fight. So I kind of knew that's what he would bring, especially because Khalil's dangerous on his feet. We seen that when he fought Mason Doyle, and Doyle's no slouch. He's had a lot of I said slouch. Yeah, and he's had a lot of kickboxing matches, and dude, he's got hands. And Khalil caught him, looked really good. As you said, but the fight before that against Peyton looked really good. So this fight was really going to be really interesting to me. I did hear a few people like disagree with the decision. I didn't score that one in my head, so I can't say either way. It sounds like you thought it was very close, and Khalil was making the right adjustments, but maybe possibly a little too late in the judges' eyes. That's one of those fights that it's a good thing because Khalil probably knows that he's got to be able to get out of those wrestling exchanges quicker and get off on his shots, and he wins that fight, right? So it's a good thing for him. He was breakout fighter of the year for a reason. Shackelford's gym, man, they got some of the best personalities. I think
they're one of my
guys.
favorite gyms to have around. Like they're just so fun and but they never take easy fights either. Like they're one of those gyms that like they're fun. They'll enjoy the show. They'll bring the crowds and the flair and everything. But like they're not gonna take easy fights. And we'll get to the main event, of course, which attests to that, and this one too. But yeah, dude,
they've never once complained, man. It's been so easy to work with. Such nice guys, always laughing, super nice. And same goes for Cisse. I talked to him in the back a few times. Really nice guy, very polite.
Yeah,
it's crazy to see them go out there and sling fists, because their personalities just are so, just so nice. It's hard to see that, but Wildside was on a hot streak that night, man. Them guys
undefeated 4-0.
Them guys, Mike. I don't know what he's doing up there, but he's doing something right. So.
Yeah, I know they brought in a new BJJ guy, and they've got this BJJ program going on at the gym now and stuff. I need to make a trip over there, me and Lawton do, and just kind of see what's going on and film some stuff maybe. But yeah, I mean 4-0. I think they went like 0-2 or 0-3 at Hub City Fight Night 9, and then they correct the ship 3 months later and go 4-0. So I mean,
that's impressive.
Yeah, so I mean, super good. But yeah, I really do think it was just one of those things where it was just a little too late for Hodges in that fight. Because if I remember correctly, even in the second round, I think he ended up getting Cisse's back with like 10 seconds left or something like that. And it was one of those things where it was like, man, like if you could have probably pulled that off with 90 seconds left rather than 10, maybe that second round goes to you. And then I do think third round went to him. I think first round went to Cisse. And but the rest is history. 2025 is about to be an insane year for regional MMA. If you haven't already watched our top 5, I got to throw a little promo in here. If you haven't watched our top 5 amateur and pro, go watch that on our YouTube channel. That's our prospects to watch for 2025. Got a lot of local guys in there with Jackson, with Dogwood, with Paducah, with Wallace McCoy, Memphis, Nashville, all those guys, man. Big love. All right, let's move on to the co-main event. Co-main event was the biggest headache of my entire life, Ryan. Holy crap, dude. It all started with weigh-in night. Unfortunately, sometimes things just don't work out, and you don't know why, but sometimes it just doesn't work out for the better. I don't know. I mean, you got to try to find the bright side, in my opinion. So Trevor Grice goes through 3 different opponents in 24 hours. Jamie Lloyd ends up dropping out. We find a guy literally on like a 24-hour notice. Then he has some car troubles, and the snow doesn't help at all. And so we find Brandon Serrano on an 8-hour notice to step in to fight the guy who just fought in September. I know a lot of people weren't excited for that, but to me, like, I'm just going to give props where props are due, dude.
Yeah.
If you can turn around in 3 months without really probably much training at all, you're an independent fighter, and you say, I will fight the guy that literally just beat me 3 months ago in the co-main event on an 8-hour notice, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to try and take his head off like I tried the last time. Dude, props to you. You know what I mean? I could care less what your record says at that point. And honestly, in amateurs, I could really care less regardless. But Trevor is like the number 4 or 5 guy in Tennessee at this point. And you're like, hey, you know what? Screw it. I'll go fight him again. Why not? And I talked to Trevor prior, like right before the event started. I was like, okay, so what's the plan? What's the game plan? I was like, you going to strike with him this time? He's like, heck no. He said he clipped me the one time in September, and he was like, this dude hits hard. He's like, I'm getting it to the ground ASAP. And I was like, all right, well, what? So I was like, that just attests to Brandon Serrano's power that he has in his hands. And I think, for him, obviously, I think just getting connected with a gym is going to be the number one thing for him in 2025. I did see he posted today that he was looking for one, and Trevor invited him out to Arrow and said, come on down, dude, come train. I think Arrow is one of these up-and-coming gyms in the region that is producing a lot of great talent. Lane Rowe, Corbin Lyons, Trevor Grice now, of course, and you got guys on the come up. Ty Arnold, Joe Tate's got a fight in February, and I know I'm missing other guys too. But
Jackson Douglas, he was on the card. He's trying.
Jackson Douglas, yeah. So I think they've got a lot of good guys coming out. So I think that would be a great addition. But again, super big props to Brandon Serrano jumping in on 8 hours notice. But we have an new black tie champion for the flyweight division, Trevor Grice. He kind of, I hate to say manifested this, but he put this into kind of into play himself, because he told us a long time ago he wanted to be a champ by the end of 2024, and then 11 days into 2025, now he's a champ.
Yeah. Trevor, he's always in the gym. Anytime I do go, he's there. So Trevor puts in the work. He's impressive. Very humble guy, like some of the other ones we talked about. That and Brandon surprised me, at the beginning of that fight. So
he defended like Trevor. 2 takedowns. I was like, holy crap, dude. I was like, if he can keep this on the feet, what are we gonna see? I was like, holy moly.
Yeah, so it started off good. I knew though if Trevor took over that fight and got him to the ground, I think he fought off a submission too, but that he once he got Brandon to the ground, I figured he would be able to control it a little bit more. And he knew that going in. Props to Trevor, though. So usually when you're cutting weight and you got a guy that backed out and then you got another guy set up, and then fight day you find out he's not coming, usually at that point you're just like, dude, screw this. I'm done. Yeah. Like, because you're already stressed out.
I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah. So props to Trevor, AJ, all them guys. They're always game.
Yeah.
We talked about them earlier. They don't take easy fights. Trevor, now that he's a champion, he's going to be fighting the best in the area.
I mean, he already has a fight lined up for June. Let's not forget.
Yeah, he's got a target on him. That's a fight we've been talking about making since both of these guys came onto the scene.
I think we've been talking about this since June.
Yeah, we couldn't make it happen yet because they both, when they fought each other, they wanted it to be for a title. Mm-hmm. So, finding that time in both their schedules, and one was injured, I think. So it sounds like it's going to line up for June as long as no injuries happen. Something exciting to look forward to. We're not, I don't know if y'all know who we're talking about, but we're not going to announce that yet.
Oh, I was saying I will. I don't care. No, I already talked to the coach like 2 days ago, and he's like, "We're still on for it, right?" And I was like, "Yes, sir. As far as I know, I'll quadruple check for you." I was like, "But they've already said yes a while ago. Y'all have said yes multiple times. It's gonna happen, in my opinion. And at this rate, I mean, if it's not a pro-am show like we're hoping it will be, I mean, that could potentially be a main event, in my opinion. Like both those guys can sell some tickets at this point."
Oh yeah, the Dogwood guys sell tickets like it's their hometown.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Dyersburg's not terribly far away, but they sell just as many tables as some of the local guys, and that's impressive. That gym is like family. Aero Athletics is the same way. That gym is like you said earlier. All these up and coming fighters. I don't know how many guys are in there that plan on fighting, but that mat last night was full of new faces that I haven't seen, and I'm sure AJ's got just a full sheet of guys in the back of his mind who he's just waiting to put on the scene. So that's some exciting things to look forward to, because we can't have a show without some local guys, right? You know, everybody wants to see, whether they know them or not, they want to cheer for the guys from Jackson when it's a Jackson promotion. But
if Austin Little's on the card, then it's like he's from Jackson at that point. You know what I'm saying? So
my wife Devin and I, we love Austin, man. Austin, if Austin's around, he's gonna find you, shake your hand, hug you. Such a nice guy, such a fun fighter to watch.
Bro, he brought gear for himself to Black Tie. He's like, just in case y'all need somebody to step in. I was like, shut up.
I love that.
I was like, you crazy, bro. You're crazy.
He's so funny, man.
And he's a new dad too, man. Last thing I want to say about Trevor, though, is like you said, you know, attest to him about accepting fights. Bro, the first guy he accepted a fight against was going to be 22 pounds heavier than he was.
Yeah.
And then the next guy, Brandon Serrano, ended up weighing in like 10 pounds heavier because it was on such a late notice. And he was like, that's fine. I was like, I just want to fight. That's it.
Just give me a fight.
Yes. And that's where, you know, we're the best team in the game. Just throwing that out there.
We're the best team. We make a good team, man. We make a good team.
Yeah. All right. Main event. I think he had some stuff, you know. I think Lawton had filmed for Trevor, and we just completely forgot. It's okay. Main event. Yeah. The middleweight championship, black tie boxing. Oh, Ryan, I need you to say this. You originally weren't a big fan of this fight when I initially matched it.
I agree. I didn't like the matchup for Stamps. Because of
there's a size difference, right? There's a size difference. There's a wrestling difference. There's a ground difference. But
not even so much the size though. Stamps is a big dude. Wallace looks really big for what he's. I know he does a big weight cut. I'm not sure what he walks at, but every time he's at weigh-ins, he looks half dead. You know, so I know he cuts a lot of weight. And I know he gets it down to he's not going to be, you know,
185.8.
Yeah,
is what he weighed in at.
So but dude, like there you have it.
And I told him too. I said, you looked much healthier at this weigh-in than you did at our last weigh-in in June, whenever he fought for us. Because like, dude, I was like, I really thought you were going to die in June.
Yeah.
And but he looked healthier. He still looked, you know, pretty sad. And but he rehydrates so well. That's the thing. He just rehydrates so well.
Yeah.
And then the next day he's fine. But yeah, I mean, Wallace McCoy, Marquez Stamps. The reason I liked this fight, number one, obviously Wallace is one of the best, if not the best. He's the best middleweight, in my opinion. He's one of the best in the region, in my opinion, amateur-wise. Now he's going pro, and I want to talk about his call-out later. But Marquez Stamps is one of the hottest guys right now. Was on a 3-fight win streak. 2 of those fights being at 85, one of those being at 70. And I thought really he was going to stay down at 70. He went back up to 85 to fight Jerry Travis on like a little short notice. Dang, Stamps is in the chat. He said, bro.
Stamps, look. He didn't let me finish what I was going to say.
Okay.
I wanted to see. I know Stamps' personality and his fighting style. Yeah, I know. I thought Wallace's. I didn't think Wallace would stand with him at all. I thought he would just straight for the takedown.
For real. Stand up. Oh my gosh, though. Let's be for real.
I was waiting on my turn to talk about that.
Yeah, it's fine.
But just because I seen Stamps comment in the chat, you know it's all love, man. I didn't like the wrestling matchup. When there's a good wrestler against a guy that is really good at striking, and it don't help that if it's a guy that I really, really like. So I just wasn't a huge fan of the matchup at first, but what we're about to get into, my mind was changed within 30 seconds into the match.
You know, sometimes my brain is better than yours, and it's okay to admit that when it comes to matchmaking, you know?
Okay.
So initially, when I set this up, the reason I did like this is number one, nobody wanted to fight Wallace. I offered it to like 8 different dudes, and Stamps literally within a month span of me trying to match for Wallace, Stamps was the only guy that said yes. And I was like, I don't know if Wallace will take it, because in my mind, I'm like Wallace, you know, normally says I just want to fight like the number one, the number two, the whatever, and dude, I mean, he was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, okay, sweet. And then I confirmed with Stamps and his team. I'm like, hey, you guys are still good for this, right? Because they had said yes a little while ago, and Wallace just had a delay of getting back to me. And so then they both agreed. And I was like, oh, this is beautiful. Because this is the fight kind of, it played out better than I thought it was going to be. And I told Stamps this in the back. I said, dude, you surprised the heck out of me. I was honestly, I said, because the confidence that you came out with, because he told me before the night started, he said, either I'm getting put to sleep or he is. He's like, I'm not coming to fight, see the judges. He's like, this is a huge opportunity. I'm the main event. I was supposed to fight on this card last year. I didn't get to because I was injured. He was like, now I'm fighting for a belt against the best in the region. He was like, I'm not coming out here just to mess around. He was like, I'm coming out here either to put him out or he's going to put me out, one of the two. And
he backed that up.
Oh, 100%. He was able to keep the range really well. He landed beautiful straights and put Wallace on his back foot a couple of times, like stunned him to where I think Wallace was actually probably surprised at the stand-up that Stamps brought. In the first round, I'm losing my voice. I'm getting so excited. In the first round, I do remember Wallace, getting him into the cage and getting the double underhooks and being able to hold him there for a little while. And I think maybe I was wondering, is that going to tire one of the other two guys out? But in the second round, they popped out and they looked both still pretty fresh. And the stand-up continued for Stamps. But then ultimately, Wallace, I think he used his size and he used his wrestling advantage to be able to get to the ground. And from there, he was able to hold that position a little bit better and finish the fight.
When Stamps got up from that early takedown in the first round, pretty quick. I'm talking about he was put on his back and he was up within 10 seconds, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't take long. He got up and he made it look fairly easy. And I was thinking, oh, man, like this is about to be, if he can get up from the takedowns like that for the whole fight,
100%.
Yeah, because he's going to get taken down. The way he strikes, he throws a lot of power into his strikes. He doesn't really stay low or he's not playing it safe and watching for the takedowns. He was throwing his full arsenal and wasn't too worried about the takedowns. It didn't look like it at the beginning. And like you said, he was landing some shots, man. He was landing some power. The confidence was showing. And I was very surprised, mainly with him getting up so quick from the takedown in that first round. My mind instantly was changed. I was like, this is a good matchup.
Yeah, Brandon's right.
Stamps was landing. He definitely won the stand-up, right? He was landing the bigger shots. Wallace just had a lot of power and a lot of cage control, and that's what he used to win the fight.
Yeah, 100%. Dude, I mean, I think I think realistically all the fights played out pretty close to how I expected. I thought the if you don't know now, fights were exactly what I was thinking. I think that, except for the St. John Brody one, that one was crazy. But I think the main event played out exactly how I was thinking as well, too. Not necessarily that Wallace would get the finish or anything, but I did think that the stand-up with Stamps would be a little bit of a difference maker there. And like you said, whenever he got up from that takedown, I was like, if he can do this, this would be an insane fight. And honestly, it kept me on my toes the whole time, man. It's exactly what you hope for in a main event. I do want to talk about the call out from Wallace McCoy, though. He calls out Stewie. And if you don't know who Stewie is, Andrew Stewart, dude, he's my number one pro to watch in 2025. I think he is one fight away from the Contender Series. Legitimately, I think he is probably the scariest dude I've ever watched in my life. The power he possesses, all the stuff, and I'm trying not to make this a Stewie promo here, but I think he's definitely married to Aries, like that, and that's the big thing. He's told me that before. He's an Aries guy through and through. He's also now a 170, which is absolutely insane because he is the most ripped, jacked 170 I've ever. He's a freaking anime character. It's nuts.
Yeah.
So Wallace calls him out, says he wants it at 85. I've already talked to the guys. They said that's not going to happen. Either Wallace goes to 70 because
That's
he is
not happening.
and so Stewie's taking too much time, too much dedication to get down to 170 to go back up to 85 to fight again. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, but I did get a message immediately after the Wallace fight from Robbie Burns saying, "Hey, man, the fight to make. They fought a Hub City Fight Night 8 at the fairgrounds, and it didn't end how you would hope any fight would. With a doctor stoppage, shoulder popped out. Tried to work it back in, but you can't once you verbally tap like that, you can't get back
Yeah.
into the fight, unfortunately. And so, that's a name that I've already pitched to Wallace as well, too. So maybe in June, if we can make this pro-am card happen, that could be one that we get on there. It's a little bit of a grudge match, a little bit of one that has a little bit of story behind it. And, I think that would definitely be a fun one. Robert has his first pro fight here in February at Attitude. So, it's something to definitely watch out for. But I respect Wallace for calling Stewie out. That's a massive call out, a massive test. And it just attests to Wallace always wants to fight the hardest guys. So, I mean, he told me it was a realistic one that I can make. Unfortunately, that's not one that I can make. But, dude, just a true attestament to the type of fighter that he is and who he wants to fight and how hard he always wants to fight. So I commend it 100%. So,
and I'll take it back. Wallace could get to 170. I mean, he would
if he cuts the weight the right way, and that's what I think it comes down to just discipline. I don't know Wallace outside of the cage. I don't know what his nutrition looks like all the time. I don't know what his weight cutting looks like all the time. But, you'd have to walk around a little lighter than you normally do. And then, try and keep as much muscle and speed. But he's already so fast for 85. I think he'd be just as fast at 70, and he's really swift. And so I think he would still be a problem at 70. It's just getting there. He'd have to take a couple catch weight fights just to work his way down. But
yeah, he could probably take, and that might be in the back of his mind as a thing when he goes pro. Maybe as an amateur, he didn't want to cut like that, or be as disciplined with his diet when he's not in a fight camp. So maybe that's something in his head. Maybe that was part of the reason for the call out. The other part of the reason is he's a dog and wants to fight the best, and I always respect guys. That reminds me of all the old school guys, man. The old school guys, they would fight on last minute notice. Short note, fight anybody. They wouldn't even ask. And a lot of reason that the Arrow guys are like that. AJ's in the chat, so he missed everything we said. All the good shout outs we gave the coach. But a lot of the reason his guys are like that is because AJ come up with that group of fighters, or he was a fighter, so he came up as that guy that would fight anybody. And and now he's making educated decisions, but he still does not pick easy fights, as we said earlier, for his guys. Always tough matches, always good fights. I don't know Stewie, but I mean, I've seen your interview with him. I've seen some of his highlight reels and stuff. I don't remember where I've seen it, but I can tell that dude is a top, probably going to be in the UFC. And
genuinely one fight away from the Contender Series, like legitimately one fight away from the Contender Series. I guarantee you he will be on the Contender Series this year.
Aries is in a good area with a lot of good talent surrounding him, so that's a good promotion for him.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's a lot of good fights to look forward to. Hopefully, like you said, we can make this June a pro-am thing. We're working on it. It's not 100% happening just yet, but I'm not gonna say it's happening until I more than likely it is, but I just don't want to give my word until I know it's for sure thing. So we got some exciting guys in mind for those pro slots of the card.
Lane Rowe, Jason Danner, hopefully. Anyways, but I do want to talk about Adrian Grundy. Yes, I mean getting these local guys, these guys that Jason Danner is practically a local guy when he comes to Jackson because holy crap,
everybody loved that.
I've watched. Yeah, it's insane. So we have a lot of guys that we already have talked about. Literally, we're talking about back in September for June. So we've already got our eyes on some people and some potential matchups. And I actually talked to one guy last night to possibly match up with Austin Little. So we're already working on some stuff right now. With we're still 6 months out, so I ain't trying to get too far ahead. But it's looking like an exciting summer. We'll be at the fairgrounds again, and what was I going to say? I was going to say something else too. I don't remember now. I get excited. I have a hard time waiting, and that
mind's running.
you put an idea in my head and I just start freaking going, just So
that's why I keep
yeah.
secrets from you, just because I know how you go. I just try to hold back and wait till I'm ready for it.
Man. But yeah, so I mean, I think Black Tie Boxing 2025 was a super exciting and special, and hectic all at the same time. And my Garmin told me all 4 days in a row that I had a really stressful day and I needed to chill out. And it actually just told me that again just now. Is
You're
why I
getting
thought about
excited.
it. Yeah, my heart rate's going again already. But June's going to be exciting. And I know what I was going to say. You were talking about guys that take dog fights and stuff like that. That's why, man, I really like, MJJ. I like Zach Underwood, Andy Urich. Those guys grew up in the same era as you, as AJ. That, you don't take hard, or you don't take easy fights. You want to fight the best guys. And that's why this is a little promo here. It's really hard to find guys to fight Manny Falcon Santos at 170. Let's just throw that out there. This poor guy has been on our card 3 times, and 2 of our cards, he's had 5 different opponents, and all of them are out. So,
I don't think he can hear you, Lawton.
here we go. Okay, what'd you hear me? What'd you hear me say last?
Matt.
Okay, if anybody wants to fight this kid, he's the hardest kid in the division. Nobody ever wants to freaking fight him. Everybody backs out. Our last 2 cards, he had 5 different opponents, and they all drop out each card. So if you want to fight this kid, message me. We'll get it done. They're not going to back out.
I feel so
everybody
bad
backs out for them. I feel so bad for this guy. But he's my top guy to watch amateur wise in the region. And if you want to test, if you want to show that you're the best 170 in the division, in the region, hit me up. We will get you down here. We will pay for your hotel, and we will make sure that that fight stays on the card. However, so June 28th, man. Look, I'm already trying to book this one because this poor kid. God.
If you sign up and you back out, you have to take Zach Underwood.
I'm tired of telling him. I'm tired of telling him. God. Anyways, I mean, that's Black Tie Boxing. You got anything else you want to add to this, Ryan?
I was going to say, I know when your name shows up on his phone that he's probably automatically stressed.
Well, so what's funny is he didn't even know who I was at first until like fight week. And he was like, dude, I just realized you're Randy's son. And I was like, oh, yeah, man. I've been talking to you for like a year. Yeah, he's like, I've been talking to you for like a straight year and never even noticed. But it was funny.
Shout out to everybody that competed on Black Tie. It was for a good cause. I know everybody puts a lot on the line. Fighting in January is not everybody's favorite time to fight right after the holidays either. So that's another big shout out. Great job, as you said, matchmaking, Brandon. You're phenomenal at that job. Shout out to the Star Center.
Yeah,
they do a lot for a lot of people in this area. Frank Byers, what an awesome production, man. These amateurs will always have something to look back on, show their kids. Just you don't realize how important the production is and how big of a memory that is to look back. And I mean, you look like a star. You look like a UFC fighter.
For real.
His team and him are just so professional. That's why I love that show every year. They're fun to work with. Great show. And like I said, thank you to everybody that has a hand in that event.
Yeah, definitely. So, again, June 28th will be Hub City's next event. Obviously, we don't have too many details on it right now, but if you're interested in being on that card, shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Shoot Ryan a message. We'll get you on our list, and we'll start looking around soon. Other than that, make sure to hit subscribe on the channel, man. I'm on the road to 500. We're at 473 actively right now. If we get to 500, man, I'm gonna do some crazy giveaways. I just reached out to Danny Barlow. He's got an open workout coming up January 25th. I'm thinking about doing a giveaway with some tickets to that, where I'll just buy a pair of tickets and give it away to some people that subscribe to the channel. So if you want a head start on that, go ahead and hit subscribe to the channel to go see Danny Barlow workout live for his upcoming fight March 1st against Sam Patterson at the UFC. And I mean, I think I've got some other giveaway ideas too, just to try and get us there. But once we get to 500, man, just letting you know, we do all this YouTube stuff for free, being transparent as much as possible. We put a lot of time and effort into all this. And so if we get to 500, we get to start making a little bit of money off of it. So it'd just be nice, so help us out as much as you can. Hit that subscribe button. It's completely free for you, and it helps us out a ton. Other than that, Ryan, thanks for your time tonight, bro. And obviously we're going to be talking real soon about June, and future stuff.
Sir, look forward to it.
Let's go.